The moment the matchmaking screen flashed "Fated pair confirmed," Noah Whitaker forgot how to breathe. His hand was still locked in Ethan Caldwell's, warm palm against warm palm, as if they had only done what they had done 1,000 times before. They had held hands crossing busy streets, during scary movies, after bad exams, through winter nights when the heating in Noah's apartment gave out, and Ethan showed up with takeout, blankets, and that annoying grin that made everything feel survivable. But this was different. This was not a joke whispered over cold pizza at midnight. This was not Ethan saying, "If we're both single at 30, I'll marry you," while tossing popcorn into Noah's hoodie. This was a crystal screen in the center of the most expensive Alpha Omega compatibility gala in Boston, telling 200 beautifully dressed strangers that Noah's best friend was not pretending. For one impossible second, the ballroom went silent. The string quartet near the marble staircase missed a note. Somewhere behind Noah, a glass clinked too loudly against a tray. Then the whispers began, soft and sharp, spreading across the room like spilled champagne. "A perfect match?" someone breathed. "That never happens." Noah stared at the glowing letters, his gray-blue eyes wide, his pale fingers trembling inside Ethan's grip. He wanted to laugh. Laughing had always saved him. Whenever something became too serious, too honest, too close to the place in his chest where fear lived, Noah smiled first and made a joke before anyone could see the truth. So he tried. He really did. His lips parted, and a weak little breath escaped. Almost a laugh, almost a plea. "Ethan," he whispered, "tell me this thing is broken." Ethan did not answer right away. That was the first thing that scared Noah. Ethan always answered. Ethan had an answer for everything, even if it was sarcastic, half asleep, or delivered through a mouthful of diner fries at 2 in the morning. But now Ethan Caldwell, the golden-haired alpha who had been Noah's best friend since 7th grade, stood perfectly still beneath the chandelier light, his blue eyes fixed on their joined hands like the world had tilted under his feet. He was beautiful in the unfair way alphas sometimes were. Tall and calm in a black suit he claimed made him look like a tax attorney, though Noah had privately thought he looked like a prince from a sad, expensive movie. His scent, usually clean cedar and winter air, had changed. It wrapped around Noah with a gentleness that made his knees feel unsteady, not demanding, not trapping, just there, familiar and impossible to ignore. 48 hours earlier, none of this had been real. 48 hours earlier, Noah had been standing in his tiny kitchen in South Boston, barefoot on cold tile, reading the ivory invitation his mother had mailed him with a note that said, "Please take your future seriously." He had groaned so loudly Ethan heard him through the phone. "It's a compatibility gala," Noah said. "That's just prom for people with trust funds and pheromone charts." Ethan laughed on the other end, low and warm. "Need me to fake being your alpha again?" Noah had smiled then, because it was their old joke, their safest joke, the one they never examined too closely. "Careful," he said. "One day it might actually happen." Noah expected Ethan to laugh and hang up, because that was how their conversations usually ended, with one of them pretending not to care too much. Instead, 20 minutes later, Ethan was knocking on Noah's apartment door with a paper bag from the diner on Tremont Street and the serious expression he always wore when he had already decided to fix a problem Noah had not asked him to fix. The hallway smelled like rain on concrete and old radiator heat. Noah opened the door in sweatpants and an oversized college hoodie, the ivory invitation still pinched between two fingers like it might bite him. Ethan stepped inside without asking, because he had been doing that since they were 13, when Noah's parents fought too loudly and Ethan would show up with comic books and sit on the floor until the house felt less lonely. "You sound dramatic when you are hungry," Ethan said, setting the bag on the counter. "I am dramatic because my mother signed me up for an elite compatibility event without telling me," Noah replied. "The hunger is just supporting evidence." Ethan smiled, but his eyes moved over Noah's face with that quiet, careful attention that always made Noah feel too seen. He noticed the faint shadows under Noah's eyes, the way Noah kept rubbing his wrist where his suppressor patch had irritated his skin, the way his scent had thinned into something nervous and sweet beneath the apartment's coffee and vanilla candle. Ethan did not comment on it. He never embarrassed Noah by naming what he noticed. He just pulled a bottle of cold tea from the bag and placed it in Noah's hand. Peach, low sugar, the only kind Noah liked. That was the problem with Ethan. He remembered everything. He remembered Noah hated mushrooms, but pretended not to because his mother put them in every holiday casserole. He remembered Noah got quiet before he got sad. He remembered Noah needed exactly 2 pillows to sleep, one under his head and one hugged against his chest. A normal best friend would remember birthdays and favorite movies. Ethan remembered the tiny instructions for keeping Noah alive in a world that constantly asked Omegas to be easier, quieter, prettier, and more available. Noah sat on the counter stool and waved the invitation at him. It says formal attire, verified secondary status, and no unregistered guests. That sounds like a courthouse with champagne. Ethan leaned against the refrigerator, arms crossed, blonde hair still damp from the rain. Then do not go. My mother already told half the neighborhood. If I skip it, she will say I am wasting my best years. Then my aunt will call. Then my cousin will send me articles about successful Omega partnerships. Then I will have to fake my own disappearance. I could help with that, Ethan said. I have a truck and no moral attachment to your family group chat. Noah laughed before he could stop himself, and the tension in his shoulders loosened. For a moment, everything felt normal again. Ethan in his kitchen, takeout on the counter, rain tapping the window, the safe rhythm of their old life. Then Ethan reached for the invitation and their fingers brushed. It was barely a touch, skin to skin for half a second, but warmth shot up Noah's arm so suddenly that he pulled back. Ethan stilled. Noah looked away first. Static, he said too quickly. Your apartment is 70 degrees and raining outside. Ethan replied softly. Noah forced a grin. Fine. Maybe you are secretly magical. Ethan did not smile this time. His gaze dropped to Noah's wrist, where the skin had flushed faintly beneath the edge of the patch. Something in his sense sharpened, not with anger, but with concern so focused it made the room feel smaller. Noah, he said, his voice lower. Are your suppressants bothering you again? Noah hated that question because it was kind. He hated it because no one else asked. I am fine. That was not what I asked. You are annoyingly good at caring. Only about you. The words landed too heavily between them. Ethan seemed to realize it at the same moment Noah did. He looked toward the rain-dark window, jaw tightening as if he could swallow the sentence back. Noah tried to rescue them the only way he knew how. Well, you did offer to fake being my alpha. Very committed performance. Ethan turned back slowly. Maybe I should go with you. Noah blinked. You cannot. It says no unregistered guests. Then register me. As what? Noah asked, already laughing because the answer was supposed to be impossible. Ethan held his gaze. As your alpha. The apartment became so quiet Noah could hear the old refrigerator hum. He waited for the wink, the grin, the easy punchline that would put the floor back under his feet. It did not come. Instead, Ethan stepped closer, careful and calm, like he was approaching a frightened animal he knew by heart. One night, Ethan said, I stand beside you. Everyone leaves you alone. Your mother stops sending articles, and afterward we get pancakes at Rosie's like always. Noah's heartbeat stumbled. Like always, he repeated, though nothing about Ethan's eyes felt like always anymore. Noah should have said no. He knew that later, while standing in front of his closet with every shirt he owned scattered across the bed like evidence of a crime. He should have laughed, thrown a napkin at Ethan, and told him the joke had gone far enough. Instead, he had looked at his best friend in the yellow kitchen light and heard himself say, fine, one night. But if you embarrass me, I am changing my name and moving to Oregon. Ethan had smiled then, small and almost relieved, and the room had started breathing again. Now, 48 hours later, Noah was not breathing at all. The gala was being held at the Whitmore Hotel, a historic building downtown with gold elevators, marble floors, and doormen who looked like they judged people professionally. Noah arrived in a navy suit that Ethan had insisted fit better than the gray one, though Noah suspected Ethan only liked it because it made his eyes look brighter. His mother had texted him 6 times before he stepped out of the rideshare. Remember to stand straight. Be polite. Do not joke too much. Meet someone serious. Noah stared at the last message until Ethan gently took the phone from his hand and slipped it into Noah's coat pocket. You are serious enough, Ethan said. Noah gave him a sideways look. I once ate cereal out of a measuring cup because I did not want to wash a bowl. A practical decision. I forgot my own apartment number the first week I lived there. It was poorly labeled. I cried during a dog food commercial. Ethan opened the hotel door for him, his voice soft enough that only Noah could hear. You have a good heart. That is not a flaw. Noah forgot the next joke. Inside, the ballroom glittered with wealth and expectation. Chandeliers spilled warm light over white roses, crystal glasses, and polished shoes that probably cost more than Noah's rent. Every alpha in the room seemed taller than necessary, every omega more graceful than Noah felt. The air was layered with expensive cologne, controlled pheromones, and quiet ambition. Noah reached automatically for the edge of his suppressor patch beneath his cuff. Before he could touch it, Ethan's hand came to rest lightly at the small of his back, not possessive, not forceful, just steady. Noah hated how quickly his body relaxed. Breathe, Ethan murmured. I am breathing. You are arguing with oxygen. Noah almost smiled. Then a woman in silver greeted them at the registration table and looked between their names. Noah Whitaker, Omega. Participant. Ethan Caldwell, Alpha Escort and Declared Partner. Declared Partner. The word struck Noah in the chest with ridiculous force. Ethan did not correct her. He simply signed the digital tablet and stood beside Noah as if that title belonged there. For the first hour, it worked. Noah's mother spotted them from across the ballroom, froze, then gave Noah a look so stunned he nearly laughed into his sparkling water. Several interested alphas approached, saw Ethan, and politely retreated. Noah should have felt relieved. Instead, every time Ethan leaned closer to hear him over the music, every time his sleeve brushed Noah's arm, every time someone called them a couple, and Ethan did not deny it, the old joke grew heavier, warmer, harder to carry. Then Carter Hayes arrived. Noah knew his name before anyone introduced him because people shifted for him, not with affection, but with practiced politeness. He was handsome in a clean, expensive way, with dark hair, a white smile, and the confidence of someone who had never been told no in a room like this. His gaze landed on Noah, traveled briefly to Ethan, then returned with interest sharpened into challenge. Noah Whitaker, Carter said smoothly. Your mother has said wonderful things. Noah smiled because he had been trained to. That sounds generous of her. Carter laughed, but his eyes did not soften. Pretty and funny. That can be useful. Ethan's hand stilled against Noah's back. The temperature of his expression dropped so quietly that Noah felt it before he saw it. Carter noticed too, and his smile widened. And this is your friend? Noah opened his mouth, ready to soften the moment, ready to make it harmless. But Ethan answered first, calm as winter. His alpha. Noah's heart gave one hard, startled beat. Carter looked amused. Declared by paperwork or by bond? The music seemed to fade around them. Noah could feel everyone nearby listening. Ethan turned to him, not Carter, and his voice changed, becoming careful, private, real. Your choice, Noah. Always. That was the worst part. Ethan could have saved the act by deciding for him. Instead, he handed the truth back into Noah's shaking hands. Noah looked. At Carter's smug smile, at his mother watching from across the room, at the glittering ballroom that wanted to sort him into something convenient. Then he looked at Ethan, his best friend, his safe place, the only alpha who had never once made him feel small. Noah lifted his chin and took Ethan's hand. By trust, he said. That should be enough. For 1 second, Carter Hayes looked as if Noah had spoken in a language he did not understand. Trust was not the answer he wanted. It was too simple, too human, and it gave him nothing to purchase, challenge, or display. Around them, the polite circle of guests tightened without anyone admitting they were watching. Noah felt their attention like a spotlight against his skin, hot and merciless beneath the chandelier glow. He kept his fingers wrapped around Ethan's hand anyway. It was strange how familiar it felt, and strange how new. Ethan's thumb rested against Noah's knuckles, steady but unmoving, as if he was afraid even the smallest pressure might make Noah think he had no choice. Carter's smile returned, smoother than before. Trust is charming, he said. But this is a compatibility gala, not a poetry reading. If he is truly your alpha, the verification station is right there. He gestured toward the center of the ballroom, where a glass platform held a sleek, white device surrounded by floral arrangements and curious guests. Noah had seen it earlier and avoided looking too closely. It was supposed to measure scent resonance and secondary status harmony, mostly as a ceremonial amusement for wealthy families who enjoyed pretending destiny came with a printed percentage. Most matches were 30%, maybe 40 if the room was lucky. Anything above 60 became gossip for weeks. Noah's stomach dipped. "We do not need to prove anything," Ethan said, his voice even. Carter raised an eyebrow. "That is convenient." Noah felt Ethan's hand begin to loosen, not because Ethan was leaving him, but because Ethan was offering escape. That almost broke Noah more than the challenge. Ethan would let the act fail in front of everyone if it meant Noah did not have to be cornered by it. He would take the embarrassment, the whispers, the judgment, and stand there like a wall until Noah could breathe again. Noah remembered being 14 and crying behind the gym after his first presentation went badly. Ethan had sat beside him on the pavement for 40 minutes without asking questions, then lied to the teacher and said Noah had been helping him find a lost wallet. Noah remembered being 17, feverish and scared after a bad reaction to a blocker, and Ethan riding his bike 3 miles in February because Noah had texted one word: help. Noah remembered 100 tiny rescues disguised as friendship. Maybe that was why his voice came out steadier than he felt. "I will do it." Ethan turned to him immediately. "Noah, you do not have to." "I know." Noah swallowed. "That is why I can." Something changed in Ethan's eyes then, something quiet and unguarded that made Noah's chest ache. They walked to the platform together. The crowd parted. Noah heard his mother whisper his name, sharp with alarm, but he did not turn. The attendant at the station, a young beta in a silver vest, looked nervous as he explained the process. Both participants would place one hand on the sensor. The device would read scent response, pulse rhythm, and biological resonance. It would not bond them. It would not mark them. It would only measure compatibility. Only measure. Noah repeated that to himself as Ethan stepped across from him. The glass platform was cool beneath Noah's dress shoes. The room blurred at the edges until all he could see was Ethan, golden hair under chandelier light, blue eyes asking one last silent question. Noah answered by placing his hand on the sensor. Ethan waited half a breath, then placed his hand over the other side. The machine hummed softly. At first, nothing happened. Carter gave a quiet laugh behind them. Then Noah felt warmth bloom under his palm. It was gentle, like sunlight through a window after days of rain. Ethan inhaled sharply. The air around them shifted, cedar and winter air meeting Noah's softer scent in a way that did not clash, did not overwhelm, but settled, as if two lost melodies had found the same song. The screen flickered once. Twice. The attendant frowned. The ballroom went still. Then the white display turned gold. The gold light from the display washed over Noah's face like sunrise, too beautiful and too public to be real. For one suspended heartbeat, no one moved. Then the number appeared. 100%. Noah stared at it, waiting for it to change, waiting for the machine to correct itself, waiting for the universe to laugh and say this had all been a technical mistake. It stayed there, bright and impossible. A sound moved through the ballroom. Not quite a gasp, not quite a whisper, but the collective breath of people watching something they had never expected to see. The attendant went pale. "That cannot be right," Carter said, his smooth voice cracking at the edges. The beta attendant tapped the side of the screen with trembling fingers, then checked the second monitor beneath the platform. "The reading is stable," he said, almost to himself. "Perfect resonance. No rejection pattern. No artificial interference." Noah's hand was still on the sensor. Ethan's was still across from his, separated by glass and light, but Noah could feel him as clearly as if their palms were touching. That was the terrifying part. Not the screen, not the whispers, not Carter's stunned expression or his mother's hand pressed to her mouth. It was the quiet inside Noah's body, the sudden absence of a loneliness he had carried for so long he had mistaken it for personality. Ethan looked at him, and for the first time in their lives, Noah saw fear on his best friend's face. Not fear of the crowd, not fear of judgment, fear of hurting Noah by wanting what the machine had just named. "Noah," Ethan said softly, "look at me." Noah did, because he always had. In school hallways, in hospital waiting rooms, in crowded grocery stores when his senses became too much, Ethan's voice had always been the thread that led him home. "This does not decide anything for you," Ethan said. The sentence should have comforted him. Instead, it nearly made him cry. Carter stepped closer to the platform, his face arranged back into something polite and cold. A perfect resonance reading requires medical confirmation. There are legal procedures. Family. Witnesses. Secondary status review. He spoke as if Noah were a document that needed proper filing. Ethan turned his head slightly, and the warmth in his expression disappeared. He is not a case file. He is an unbonded omega with an unprecedented result in a public registry event, Carter replied. That makes this everyone's concern. No, Noah said. The word surprised even him. It was not loud, but it cut through the room because it was the first thing he had said without trying to make it charming. Carter looked at him as if he had forgotten Noah could speak for himself. Noah removed his hand from the sensor. The gold screen dimmed, but a faint warmth remained beneath his skin, pulsing at his wrist like a second heartbeat. He looked down and saw a thin line of light there, soft and golden, curved like a thread tied beneath the surface. It was not a full mark. It was not a claim. It was something waiting. His mother reached him then, her perfume sharp with panic. Noah, sweetheart, we need to call your father. We need to understand what this means. Noah almost laughed because that was exactly what everyone wanted. To understand it. To label it. To decide whether it was lucky, dangerous, embarrassing, or useful. But Noah was the one standing there with his whole life turning under his skin, and for once, he did not want the room to vote on his future. Ethan stepped down from the platform and stopped beside him, close enough to help, far enough not to trap. Say the word, Ethan murmured, and I will take you home. Home. Not his apartment. Not Ethan's apartment. Just home, as if the place had always been wherever they could breathe together. Noah looked at the screen, at the crowd, at Carter's careful frustration, at his mother's frightened hope. Then he looked at Ethan and remembered every joke they had used as a locked door. Maybe the door had never been locked. Maybe they had both just been afraid to turn the handle. Noah held out his glowing wrist, voice shaking but clear. Ethan, I think I need to leave before everyone decides who I belong to. Ethan's eyes softened with something deeper than relief. You belong to yourself, he said. I am just walking beside you. And with the entire ballroom watching, Noah took his best friend's hand and walked out. Outside the ballroom, the air felt strangely ordinary. The Whitmore Hotel lobby still smelled of lemon polish, expensive flowers, and rain tracked in from the sidewalk. Guests still crossed the marble floor with little rolling suitcases. A child near the front desk still complained that his hot chocolate had too many marshmallows. The world had not ended, even though Noah's had quietly split in two. Ethan did not drag him. He did not rush him. He walked at Noah's pace, hand open around Noah's fingers, loose enough that Noah could let go at any second. That made Noah hold on harder. They reached a quiet alcove near the coat room, where the music from the gala became a muffled dream behind closed doors. Noah pulled his hand back at last and hugged his glowing wrist to his chest. The thin golden line had faded, but it had not disappeared. It sat beneath his skin like a secret learning how to speak. I am not upset with you, Noah said quickly, because Ethan's face looked too still. I know you did not plan that. Ethan gave a breath that was almost a laugh and almost pain. Planning a historic compatibility incident at a hotel gala would be a little ambitious, even for me. Noah tried to smile, but it broke before it became real. What am I supposed to do now? Ethan looked down at his own hand, the one that had been on the sensor. There was a faint mark there too, barely visible near the base of his thumb, a pale gold thread that matched Noah's. He closed his hand slowly, as if hiding it might protect Noah from the meaning. First, you breathe. Then we leave. Then we find someone who can explain this without treating you like a trophy. His phone buzzed. Then Noah's. Then both again. Noah glanced at the screen and saw missed calls from his mother, 2 from his aunt, 1 from a number he did not recognize, and a text from Carter Hayes that simply said, "You should not leave before confirmation." The words made Noah's stomach tighten. Ethan saw his expression change. Block him. That feels dramatic. Good. Be dramatic with boundaries. Noah actually laughed. Then, small and shaky, it steadied him more than he expected. Ethan took off his suit jacket and placed it around Noah's shoulders, not because Noah was helpless, but because the lobby doors kept opening to the wet 40-degree Boston night, and Ethan had always been the kind of person who noticed cold before Noah admitted feeling it. They stepped outside under the hotel awning. Rain painted the street silver. Taxis hissed through puddles. Ethan ordered a rideshare, then stood beside Noah in silence, close but not crowding him. You said I belonged to myself? Noah whispered. I meant it. Even if this is real? Ethan turned to him then, rain catching in his blonde hair, blue eyes tired and achingly honest. Especially if it is real. The car arrived, and they slid into the back seat without another word. Noah expected the ride to Ethan's apartment to feel awkward, but the quiet between them was not empty. It was full of everything they were not ready to say. Halfway across the city, Ethan's phone rang again. He frowned at the caller identification. "It is Dr. Melissa Grant," he said. "She works at the Boston Secondary Health Institute. My mother knows her." Noah nodded because his throat had gone tight. Ethan answered on speaker only after Noah agreed. Dr. Grant's voice was calm, professional, and careful. She explained that the gala registry had automatically flagged the result, and because the resonance had been perfect, the medical board had been notified. Noah closed his eyes. Of course it had. Nothing in rooms like that stayed private. "Mr. Whitaker," Dr. Grant said gently, "your preliminary response pattern suggests you may be a rare resonance omega. It is not dangerous, but it is uncommon. It means your biology may respond safely and fully to only one alpha in your lifetime." Noah opened his eyes. Ethan had gone completely still beside him. Dr. Grant continued, "Based on tonight's reading, Mr. Caldwell appears to be that alpha." The rain on the car windows blurred the city lights into gold and blue. Noah looked at Ethan, and all the old jokes, all the late-night almosts, all the times they had stood too close and called it friendship, rose between them like ghosts asking to be named. Ethan ended the call politely after arranging a private appointment for the next morning. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Noah whispered, "So the universe has terrible timing." Ethan's smile was faint, sad, and beautiful. "No," he said. "I think we did." By the time they reached Ethan's apartment in Cambridge, the rain had softened into a silver mist that blurred the streetlights and made the whole city look like a memory. Noah had been there hundreds of times before. He knew the crooked mailbox in the lobby, the elevator that shuttered on the third floor, the faint smell of coffee that always lingered outside Ethan's door because the old man across the hall brewed a pot every night at 9. Nothing should have felt different. Yet when Ethan unlocked the apartment and stepped aside to let him in first, Noah hesitated on the threshold, as if crossing it might turn one more joke into something permanent. Ethan noticed, because Ethan noticed everything. "You can still tell me to take you home," he said. Noah looked past him into the familiar living room, the navy couch where he had fallen asleep during finals week, the bookshelf with his own mystery novels mixed among Ethan's engineering textbooks, the green mug he always used sitting upside down by the sink. His life had been quietly living inside Ethan's for years. He had simply refused to call it by name. "No," Noah said softly. "I want to be here." Ethan nodded once, but he did not look relieved. He looked careful, like every choice he made now mattered more than it used to. He gave Noah dry clothes from the hallway closet, an old Boston College sweatshirt and soft gray sweatpants, then disappeared into the kitchen to make tea. Noah changed in the bathroom and stood for a moment under the harsh white light, staring at his wrist. The golden line had dimmed to a thin shimmer beneath his pale skin. It should have frightened him. Instead, the frightening part was how right it looked, as if something unfinished had finally learned its shape. When he came out, Ethan had placed a mug on the coffee table and moved to the far end of the couch, leaving enough space between them for a whole conversation of things neither of them knew how to say. Noah sat down, tucked his feet beneath him, and wrapped both hands around the warm mug. "You are sitting like I might bolt." Ethan's mouth curved faintly. "You might. I am not a deer." "No. You are a person who makes jokes when scared, over-explains when cornered, and pretends he is fine until he gets a headache." Noah stared at him. "That is rude because it is accurate." For a second, the old rhythm returned, easy and bright. Then it faded, leaving them with the truth again. Ethan looked at his own hand, where the matching mark had nearly vanished. "Dr. Grant said only one alpha," he said. "That does not mean you owe me anything." Noah's throat tightened. "What if I want to owe you something?" Ethan's eyes lifted to his, and the tenderness there was almost unbearable. "Then I would ask you to choose slowly. Not tonight. Not because of a screen, or a doctor, or your family, or some biological explanation that makes everyone act like your future is already signed." Noah swallowed hard. "You really would wait?" "I have been waiting without knowing I was waiting." The words were quiet, but they moved through Noah like weather. He looked down into his tea, watching the steam curl upward. I was afraid, he admitted. Before tonight. Before all of this. Sometimes when you hugged me, everything in me got calm too fast. Sometimes when you laughed with someone else, I felt ridiculous and jealous and then hated myself for it. I thought if I ever said anything, I would lose the safest person I had. Ethan went very still. Noah kept going because stopping would be worse. So I turned it into a joke. I thought if I made it funny, it could not hurt me. Ethan crossed the space slowly, giving Noah time to pull away. Noah did not. Ethan sat closer, not touching him yet, his voice rough with feeling. I did the same thing. Every time I said I would marry you someday, I was hiding the part of me that wished someday meant now. Noah's breath caught. Outside, rain tapped softly against the window. Inside, the distance between them felt smaller than a heartbeat. Then Ethan's phone lit up on the table with a message from Dr. Grant confirming the morning appointment, and beneath it, another unknown number appeared with Carter's name in the preview. Noah read only the first line before the screen went dark. Leaving with him does not make this over. Noah stared at the dark phone screen long after the message disappeared, feeling the warmth of the tea seep through his fingers while the rest of him went cold. Ethan picked up the phone, read the message in silence, and set it face down on the table as if refusing to give Carter any more space in the room. He does not get to decide what this means, Ethan said. Noah tried to answer, but the words gathered behind his ribs and would not move. The apartment was too familiar for this kind of fear. The couch still had the small ink stain Noah had made 2 years ago while helping Ethan address holiday cards. The blanket over the armrest was the one Noah always stole during movie nights. The framed photo on the bookshelf showed them at Revere Beach, wind ruining their hair, both laughing at something neither of them could remember. How could a place built from years of safety suddenly become the place where everything changed? Ethan must have seen the panic rising in him, because he stood. I am going to make more tea. You already made tea. Then I am going to aggressively stand in the kitchen and pretend hot water solves emotional problems. Noah let out a broken laugh. Ethan smiled softly and moved away, giving him room without making it feel like abandonment. That was when Noah realized Ethan had been doing that all his life. Making space, standing close enough to catch him, far enough to let him run. Noah looked down at his wrist. The golden line flickered once, faint but alive, and a memory came back so clearly it stole his breath. Senior year. The winter formal. Noah had gone with a sweet beta from his literature class, and Ethan had spent the whole night acting normal until Noah came home shivering because the crowded gym, the music, and the mixed scents had overwhelmed him. Ethan had not asked why the date ended early. He had just wrapped Noah in his coat and sat with him on the porch steps. Until the shaking stopped. Noah remembered leaning into Ethan's shoulder and whispering, "You are going to ruin me for everyone else." Ethan had laughed then, but it had sounded sad. Noah had forgotten that. Or maybe he had chosen not to remember. Ethan returned with a glass of water this time, and stopped when he saw Noah's face. "What is it?" Noah swallowed. "I think I knew before tonight." Ethan did not move. "Knew what?" "That it was you." The words came out barely above a whisper, but once they existed, Noah could not take them back. Not in a scientific way. Not like Dr. Grant said. I just knew that no one else ever felt like home. I told myself that was friendship because friendship was safe. Friendship did not ask me to risk losing you. Ethan sat beside him again, slower this time, as if the air itself had become fragile. "Noah, do not say anything sweet yet," Noah said, wiping quickly at his eyes. "I am trying to be brave, and if you are sweet, I will fall apart." Ethan pressed his lips together, fighting a smile that looked painfully tender. "Understood." Noah took a breath. "Tomorrow, I want to go to that appointment. I want answers. But I do not want Carter there. I do not want my mother speaking for me. I do not want a room full of people treating my body like public property. Then it will be just us," Ethan said. "And Dr. Grant." Noah looked at him. "Us." Ethan's expression softened. "Only if you want that." There it was again, the choice, placed gently in Noah's hands. Not demanded, not assumed, offered. Noah reached across the small distance between them and took Ethan's hand. The golden line at his wrist brightened, and Ethan's mark answered with the same quiet glow. Neither of them moved for a long moment. It was not dramatic. No music swelled. No screen announced destiny. Just two best friends sitting on an old couch in Cambridge, holding hands like they had done forever, finally understanding why it had never felt ordinary. Noah's voice trembled when he spoke. I want you there. Ethan's fingers curled around his, warm and careful. Then I am there. Outside, the rain stopped. Inside, Noah rested his head against Ethan's shoulder. And for the first time all night, the future did not feel like a verdict. It felt like a door opening. Morning came quietly, pale sunlight slipping through Ethan's curtains and softening the apartment as Noah woke beneath the navy blanket Ethan had tucked around him sometime after sleep finally won. For one brief second, he forgot the gala, the glowing screen, Carter's message, and the faint golden line beneath his skin. Then Ethan moved in the kitchen, careful and quiet, and memory returned all at once. He sat up as Ethan brought over 2 coffees, his expression gentle enough to hurt. You still want to go? Ethan asked. Noah looked at his wrist. The mark was softer in daylight, but still there. Yes, he said. I want the truth before anyone else sells me their version. Dr. Melissa Grant's office near Beacon Street was warmer than Noah expected, filled with plants, watercolor paintings, and a calm that did not demand anything from him. She spoke to Noah first, not Ethan, and explained that rare resonance was not ownership, not a command, not a legal bond. It only meant his body had recognized one alpha as uniquely safe, and Ethan's had answered. Think of it like 2 locked doors discovering they were made for the same key, she said. A door still chooses whether to open. Noah held those words like a lifeline. When they left, Carter and Noah's mother waited in the lobby, polished and anxious, ready to turn his life into a crisis meeting. His mother began softly, but Noah did not smile to make her comfortable. I already handled it, he said. Dr. Grant explained my options. Ethan is here because I asked him to be. No one else gets a vote. Carter's face tightened, but he stepped aside. Outside, Boston shone after the storm. Noah and Ethan walked to Rosie's, the small diner Ethan had promised, where the syrup bottle was sticky and the waitress called them honey. Noah watched Ethan stir his coffee and finally said, About that someday you mentioned. Ethan froze. Not today, Noah added. Not because of biology. Just someday slowly. Ethan smiled, fragile and bright. Slowly sounds perfect. Noah reached across the table, and Ethan took his hand. Beneath their sleeves, the golden marks warmed, quiet and certain. For years, they had called it a joke because hope was too dangerous. Now Noah finally understood. Some truths wait beside you until you are ready to say, it was always you.